Sue, hello, thank you for joining me. What do you make of the new head of Ofsted's remarks about behaviour in schools up and down the country? We hear from the Ofsted head that some teachers are having to lock themselves in classrooms during break for their own safety, for example.
I think that's an extreme example. I think he was showing that he has got great experience in managing difficult situations. I think that's what he was trying to sort of get across. But, you know, these are problems. Look at that school you've just been describing. I mean, there seems to be so much anger around in the world that's overspilling all already into primary schools as well. So, you know, there's a lot of anger in head teachers and teachers generally around Ofsted. And my experience of Ofsted was they weren't there to kind of help you out. You always felt they were there to trip you up. So I think he's got a big job to try and placate that, to look at ways of handling that situation with compassion, because of course Ruth Perry, you know, just affected everybody hearing a wonderful head teacher like that having to, you know, she took her own life because of the situation.
Yes, exactly. It was found that she took her own life because Ofsted had decreed that her school was of a different standard from the standard that she'd worked her whole career to make sure it was, and she just couldn't face the consequences, and she wondered whether she'd lose her job, and the ignominy, the shame was just far too much. But what about the idea of these heated and violent responses to things? You might say that it's head teachers' job and responsibility, especially now, to explain to children and to parents that it's perfectly possible to have differing views, opposing political views, but not to be violent, threaten, demand the headmaster's head on a pike, to discuss, to debate, and also ultimately to agree to differ and to coexist, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm distressed actually by the amount of polarisation in the world generally. And of course, it's trickling down all the way through, isn't it? It's not just in politics, it's trickling down, as we can see now, into all areas. And I think the whole thing about teaching empathy, respect, dignity, tolerance, kindness, these are values that have gone through society forever, but we need to bring them back, don't we? And we need to calm down and we need to respect each other, even if we disagree sometimes with what people are saying.
I really wonder about bringing back, if it ever went away, formal debating. The idea that you can, argue in favour of euthanasia, you can argue against euthanasia, you both have valid points, you make them carefully, respectfully, and at the end you sum up, and maybe the judge or adjudicator or the audience will decide which of you was the most or more compelling speaker, but you don't fall out, you don't start kicking each other's heads in and threatening to bomb the school, you just disagree.
Yeah, I remember when I was teaching year sixes, you know, they're the sort of 11-year-olds, and we used to do debates like that. And it could be about anything. It could be an eco-friendly topic or anything, because I do think it gets children with critical thinking, learning about respecting other people's points of view, being open-minded, to listen to what other people are saying and not just rush in to judge them and shout at them. So I think you're right. And, you know, there's been debates about in universities where they've stopped different people coming in to do debating. So perhaps that is another area of perhaps exploring in schools, trying to show each other that we must be more tolerant.
Sue, thank you very much indeed. Always a pleasure to have you on the programme. Let me bring you some breaking news now.